Hi everyone. It's the beginning of our new series, which is on open hands and open hearts, and hopefully in your small groups you have got some of the material. And over the next 5 weeks, we're going to have some opportunities to have the preach on the Sundays in each of our locations, and then during the week when we meet in our small groups, to just take some moments to really grapple with some of these ideas and concepts and the things that God says to us. So this week, it's the very first one, and we're looking at what it means to put God first. It's a great one to start with, isn't it? I think this is something that for any of us, definitely me included, we are thinking about for the whole of our lives. What does it mean to put God first in our lives? In the Sunday material and in your discussions tonight, we've got that opportunity to really pull that apart a little bit and think, what does that mean in terms of how I spend my time? What does it mean in terms of how I spend my money? So one of the concepts that it would be great for you to talk about in groups tonight is, what do I think about tithing? Often money is one of those areas where it's just a little bit easier to brush it under the carpet and ignore it a little bit, and we can get into quite some messes with our money, can't we? And so it can be quite hard to talk about those things, and we often compare ourselves over money as well, and when the rubbish stuff with comparing means that you compare yourself and you always either come out better than someone else, and then that leads you all into pride and arrogance and all of that, and you have to deal with all of that, or you come out worse than someone else and then you feel really rubbish, and you feel like you daren't talk about something because you're so much worse than someone else. So money is one of those things that we always think, if I had a bit more money it would be easier, and actually what God says to us is to put him first in everything, and then everything else will follow on from there, and we'll find huge contentment in that. So, bit of an opportunity in your groups this week to think about that, and can I just encourage you to be really honest in how you approach money and how you approach tithing. I feel, I guess in a way that that I was very fortunate to really hear and think and get challenged on this when I was about 17, 18. And I say that that's easier because what it meant was I had hardly any money then. I remember having about £10 a week to sort my food off as a student, and so actually giving a tenth of that away felt quite easy. And then if you get into a habit of that, then when you get your first paycheck, when you get your first salary, automatically giving away 10% then becomes quite a simple thing to do. And then when you're earning a little bit more and it's a bit more money, it somehow doesn't really seem to matter then what the figures are, because you've just got into this habit of and that's what we do now. Our money, whatever it is for what we earn, goes into our account, and the next day it goes out again in terms of what we tithe. And that has meant such a release and such a freedom for me. But I know that it came from that grappling with it at the very beginning as to what that means and what that looks like. And so I really want to encourage you to have those discussions tonight about money and your approach to it. And the other part of this is about in the information and in the Bible it talks about idolatry, and this word idols is it's not a word we really use much now, is it? It's not a word that's very much in our culture, and it really just means, are there any places in our lives, and of course there are often, where we are putting something else ahead of God? And so money may be one of those things, but actually it can be all sorts of things. It can be really good things as well. Idolatry isn't just about negative things. It's not like getting carried away with drinking and putting drinking first, or getting carried away with being on your phone all the time and putting your phone first. It can actually be things like the way I am precious about my time, and putting that above actually what God's saying to me. It can be about the way that I view my friendships or my children or my marriage, and actually prioritising them above my relationship with God. So it's definitely not about just bad things. It's just about anything that might come in the way of what God is saying to me, and being obedient to God in those things. So do have some open discussion. I just want to encourage you in that, to think about what are the things that are in your life that sometimes get in the way. And think about it in the big decisions as well as the small decisions. So sometimes God asks us to put him first in really big decisions, like, should I give up my job and do something different because God's asking me to put him first in that area? Or should I move to a different community or a different house or a different whatever it is because God's asking me to put him first? And those can feel like really hard decisions, and you get to that place of having to surrender in a really big way because you feel like God is asking you to do that. Or it can be in really small ways, like someone's really annoyed me this morning, and they haven't actually, but someone's really annoyed me this morning, and I know that to put God first means I have to really now choose to forgive him. And or I can go through my day and hold on to it and ignore it and hope it goes away, but that's not really putting God first. So putting God first is a massive thing for us. Big things, small things, thinking about money, thinking about relationships. So have a great evening, and just really try and wrestle with this in your groups. Thanks.